So the title of her presentation is Ready for Change, Collaboration and Remote Work. She joins the Spruce Services leadership team as VP of Product in March of 2020, right in the big middle of this nonsense. Spruce is a B2C Austin startup disrupting how residents living in apartment buildings receive household services in over 15 markets nationally. How interesting is that? All right. Since early 2020, Spruce has experienced 100% year-over-year revenue growth and a 300% increase in active users. Prior to Spruce, she served in product leadership roles at The Knot, that you know is the pre-marriage site, Kimbia, Spreadfast, and Blackbaud, launching dozens of products and working with technology teams around the globe to build amazing products. She began her career working for the Texas Workforce Commission, you are kidding me, on projects to bring legacy mainframe systems through digital transformation to the modern web. You didn't go far enough. That's all I have to say. Audrey enjoys traveling with her husband, Tony, a Texas high school band director. Seasonally, they are involved in South by Southwest, enjoy watching live drum corps competitions when they come through Texas. They have two precocious cats, Princess Meow Meow and Casper, both of whom like to make unplanned cameos on Zoom calls. Another change we all have to get used to. All right. Thank you so much. I love your bio. So let's give a warm welcome to Audrey Tiger.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. And I really thought long and hard about what might be relevant to this group and what you might find rewarding to learn about. So really what I started thinking about, and thank you, Kathy, by the way, for the great introduction, is what I've sort of been over in my own career for the past couple of years with COVID. I'm starting in 2020, as Kathy mentioned. So thank you all for joining me today and giving me the opportunity to talk about this topic. Anyway, I just, have gone through a lot of transformation myself over the last couple of years. So hopefully you're going to be able to get something from my presentation today, maybe a new soft skill, or maybe some additional resources that will help you bone up your collaboration game a bit. But first, a little bit more about me. So we mentioned Casper and Princess Meow Meow. These are the two sort of principal precocious cats at large. If you see them today, that's who's who. Hopefully they won't be an interruption, but if you do, you'll get to see them. All right, so one thing that's probably helpful to know is I've lived in Austin since 1990 and am a graduate of UT Austin. I have over 15 years experience in product management, and sometimes I go to Product Camp Austin, or you might see me at South by Southwest interactive events. Usually I'm around town in some of those opportunities, but most of what I'm going to share with you today, like I said, it sort of leads up from my time starting in March of 2020. Prior to joining Spruce, I had a ton of great experiences working for companies and distributed teams all over the world. These are some of the companies that Kathy just mentioned that I've worked for. So my career started at the state of Texas, at the Texas Workforce Commission, and then I went into the Austin software tech scene. Up until this point, I've had tons of challenges, growth opportunities, working with lots of teams that were not co-located with me. They were in other parts of the world. None of these were really as difficult as my transition in 2020. So what was really different, right? Even with that experience and background that I had, I found that collaboration with fully remote work was fundamentally more difficult across the board. And so today I'm going to share with you guys more and explore some thoughts on maybe why that could be, and hopefully make sure you're as prepared as you can be to be successful with this new world that we're finding ourselves in. All right, so in January of 2020, I had just exited a job at The Knot. It was a planned departure. We had a big acquisition that took place. They were delisted from the stock exchange. And I joined up on the transition team. So my assignment was to really work myself out of a job. I knew that was part of the gig, and I was fine with it, really. So at the end, I was really excited to start something new and different, frankly. So I looked around at opportunities at the time and found an opportunity at this company, Spruce, that was a startup and had this new managed services product. Very exciting. And I thought, this is something really different for me. It's going to challenge me, and I'm going to be excited to be a part of the team. My first day in the office was March 3rd, 2020. My last day in our office was March 13th, 2020. Wasn't my last day with the company, was last day in the office. So for those of you counting, that was 10 calendar days, not even 10 working days. So that was quite a transition. Here I was, all of a sudden, found myself working at home at a new company with a position on the leadership team, reporting to the CEO. I was really ready to breathe new life into the company, into the product organization. And through my entire career, my role has really required some level of collaboration. And as much of that in the past has also been in person. I didn't really think about how much that mattered until I was really faced with this new reality that I was working in. And over the coming months, we also experienced a ton of up and downs with the global pandemic going on. And once upon a time, I really loved working from home. I looked at it as an opportunity to come home, be heads down on a project, kind of shut things out and get a lot done. But now I found myself really struggling to collaborate and feel connection with the rest of my new team. So what are some skills that you could maybe learn, or some additional things that you could bring to the table that would really help you shine and show the best part of yourself to a new team? And also, what tools and resources might be useful to you to help you be more successful in that endeavor? Those are some of the things I'm hoping we can share today. All right, so here we were, right? Those first few days on the job, to compare and contrast realities before the shutdown. Here we are having an ideation session together at our hip garage on the east side. Yes, the garage door is open. You can see that's my desk, and I was sitting there, and you could see outside. It was a beautiful spring day, and the breeze is blowing in. There are some food trucks around the corner, and you could easily go grab coffee, come back, and walk and talk with people outside. The idea of just being able to grab a few folks in the room, pull up a whiteboard, get out your sticky notes, and you're off to the races, right? Whether it's customer journey maps or crazy eights, rapid ideation sessions, user story mapping. I mean, I've got a bag full of tricks through my whole career. But who has ever really successfully done many of those activities remotely before? I know in my own experience, I found myself oftentimes, if I was doing an activity like this, struggling to figure out how to incorporate some of my remote participants. I made efforts to include them, but I'm sure that their participation experience was not ideal. So suddenly, what do you do when the whole team is remote? Things like this all of a sudden seemed sort of impossible, or maybe improbable. And so then on top of that, I'm at a true startup. There's very little that's documented, and you're sort of trying to figure out what's going on, where you might find the answer, who could give you the answer. And it's really tough. Everyone there had a chance to get to know each other and were really close already. So they were using Slack and a lot of channels for discussion. There were things that I was trying to follow along with that maybe I didn't really have full context yet. The company was also going through a major adjustment with the outbreak of COVID. And, with housekeeping services, suddenly it was like overnight, the majority of our business seemed to sort of disappear periodically because everybody had gone into lockdown. And it was a very scary moment. You're at a company that's very new. We were pre-A round fundraising, for those of you who are in the tech sector. So, there were a lot of questions. Was I going to continue to even have a job? And if so, like, how successful were we going to be? The good news is, as was hinted at in my earlier intro, we totally rebounded and things went very, very well. So I'm happy to report there was no challenges on the business front, as we were able to recover and rebound, and things have been better than ever. But, in terms of high stress on top of high stress. I had all of it. And in addition to that, you had this challenge of figuring out, how do you connect with other people when you can't read the room? I know I've been through a lot of trainings where they taught you about being able to read body language and think about how people are reacting to what you're saying. Are they engaged? Are they not engaged? Look for those nonverbal cues. Look for facial expressions. Are people engaged? Are they tuning you out? It's hard to know on Zoom. Half the time, people were either turning their video off, or they weren't engaging in the chat, or maybe they were in both of those, but you could tell they were obviously reading something on the side or answering an email. So, now what do I do? I've got all these little thumbnails on the screen that I'm looking at. How do I get them to engage with me in collaboration and ideation and things that could be really challenging topics even to try to work through remotely? So I felt lost, but then eventually carved a path forward. And I'll share with you some of what I learned and some of the tools that hopefully help you be a little better prepared than I was for the challenge that having a fully remote team, or maybe a mostly remote team, could bring you. So, recently I started to think about this topic a little bit more. And the good news is, I'm not crazy. It turns out we're all struggling with this. And a recent study just came out that they did of over 61,000 Microsoft employees, and found that during the pandemic, when everything went into shutdown, working from home caused workers to become more siloed in how they communicate, how they engage, and having fewer real conversations. And also found that they were spending ironically fewer hours in meetings. You would think it might be the other way around. This study was published on September 9th of this year, so just recently. And it's in the journal Nature Human Behavior. So if you want to go look it up, you can. It's co-authored by Berkeley Haas assistant professor David Holtz. And I got a credit for that in my slide here. But essentially, they saw Microsoft, when they imposed a company-wide work from home policy in response to the 2020 pandemic, found that there were a few key things they discovered. First of all, longer work hours. Now, this might be because people weren't commuting, but also just seemed like they were starting earlier and ending later their day, just generally. Maybe because they also felt like me, that there was stress and they needed to stay on top of things at home. They also saw an increased usage of instant messaging, like Slack or other tools, instead of other communication styles. So they saw a decrease in communication for things like phone calls or video chats even. So natural silos started to develop between teams, and new people that came on board were not always looped in, and they were not always readily included. This research also found that remote work caused the share of collaboration time employees spent with other cross-group connections to drop by about 25% versus the pre-pandemic levels. So company-wide remote work caused separate groups to become even more interconnected with themselves and less cross-connected with other teams. This was what I experienced in real life as well. While we had team meetings and one-on-ones, the more lateral and diagonal communication between members of other teams and between managers with other team members or folks on other teams, between existing employees versus new employees, in all these different areas, those sort of seem to wane or felt a little bit non-existent. You can get some innovation going with smaller groups, but it's much harder to get the feeling that the entire company is focused on the same strategy and the same mission. Teams have a little experience or knowledge about what other teams are doing. And outside of our OKR scorecards or our larger departmental meetings and dashboards, that information wasn't really getting intimately shared across teams in ways I'd seen it shared at companies in the past. And also, relationships just don't get formed and fostered. You're not running into someone in the break room making a cup of coffee, and you're not getting to have that sort of, hey, we're all going to go grab lunch. Do you want to grab lunch? Maybe you'd like to go out for happy hour. Those sort of regular interactions that people have are just sort of gone, and there's not an easy way to manufacture that remotely. So first of all, for me and my role specifically, innovation is something that really depends on making the connection between the unexpected or even the unlikely. And it's much harder to discover those opportunities when you have sort of a very limited focus, right? When you're sort of in your own team and you're navel gazing within your own team, it's harder to make those discoveries, and it's harder to get new information available to you because you're not cross-pollinating anymore. You're sort of stuck in your own zone. So, working in tech and in product management specifically, collaboration is really the backbone of innovation. And how am I going to be able to make that work in this new scenario where I'm trying to help lead and help provide that innovation and feelings connection, right? So here are some things that we did at Spruce, both as an organization and then me personally, that I think could be interesting or useful. So first of all, keep your culture alive. Like, that is something that is really critical, and it's so important to success. You have that early culture with a team, or even if it's a larger company, it's hard to continue to keep that fabric together and keep everyone feeling connected to one another when you're remote. So here are some things that we established in our company to try to help make that connectivity easier and to make it feel like we were more connected to one another. So first of all, and I can tell by the folks on the meeting today, this may not be something you're used to. We became a video on company. That was our culture. It was announced by our CEO at an all hands meeting. It was something that, if he saw you on a meeting and you didn't have your video on, he might kind of, in a friendly way, kind of call you out for it. So definitely something that makes a big difference. And even if, you're not having your best hair day, and it isn't always, that you're, having the best thing going on around you, maybe you've got pets or kids or whatever, it's still better to engage with people face to face. It does make a difference. And if you can get comfortable with that, I think you start to build trust with other people because you're showing a little bit of vulnerability by having your video on and being willing to sort of expose yourself. So it brings to that conversation something that you're willing to share and show about yourself that makes you a little uncomfortable, that makes it easier for the other person to engage with you. Also, we started a remote happy hour. So as cheesy as that sounds, it actually worked out very well. We found ways as a team to have icebreakers and go around and share fun facts with each other. Folks sort of turned their mics on and off, so we didn't have just a bunch of crosstalk going on. But, there were some folks who, had their music on and would leave their mic on. So we had sort of had like ambient music playing in the background, or we would all kind of commit to some sort of a beverage theme, adult beverage theme, where we would all try something similar to each other and talk about what we were having and share recipes with each other. So there are ways you can make this fun and make it something that people are actually excited to show up to. And of course, it helped that we started it before the end of a business day. So we kind of kicked it off at like 4 on a Friday, which made it easier for people to attend. And if they've already been sitting at their desk all day, they didn't feel, obligated to stay on after 5 and continue to be a part of it. But many people did. They stayed on, and they would get up from behind their desk and take their laptop into the next room or outside and, find a place to like be more comfortable and still be able to be part of the group. And that was really fun. Something else that we did was having this idea of really opening up the mic for the beginning and end of all hands. And what that meant is, think about when you would go into a big meeting room when you're all at work together. You kind of have that quick chat with someone about the football game you watched over the weekend, or how are your kids doing, or, hey, did you see that cool thing on television the other night? You have those, right, those personal connection moments with people. We found that we were all missing when we were all remote. So at the beginning of our all hands, we tend to come off our mics and just greet each other a little bit. Usually our CEO kicks off with a little bit of open-ended, not everybody has to say it, but he'll ask an open-ended question for anybody who wants to reply to him. And we just get the conversation going a little bit in the virtual room, if you will, before we're ready to kick into the formal all hands content. And then, everybody mutes and then we go into the presentation section. But it's a great way to get to know a little bit of personality of everybody who's on your team when you really aren't getting those opportunities to see each other in person much. So that's another tool that you might want to think about. And then once we went into and we embraced this idea that we're going to be remote and we're going to be remote for a while. And at the time, we didn't even know how long really, but we just knew we were going to be remote. We really decided to kind of jump in with both feet. So not only were people working from home, but we adopted a work from anywhere policy. So the idea was if you wanted to, travel out of state to go see family and maybe quarantine with them because you were stuck in an apartment that was too small for you to really work comfortably, go work there. As long as you could still show up and be available for the things you needed and you had access to high-speed internet, there was no reason for you to feel like you had to sort of be at the physical location where you originally signed on to your job. So, maybe you always wanted to have a vacation home in Santa Fe and you decide to rent your place out where you live and go get a new, place in Santa Fe and try it out for a few months and see if you really love it. That was perfectly fine. Or maybe it was going to be easier for you to go and be with your in-laws in Florida because they could help you watch the kids while you were both working from home. That was great too. That was something that I think really showed support of our employees, but frankly, it also made working remotely really interesting. We even had an employee who went to Costa Rica for 6 weeks and was staying at like a yoga retreat. And I don't know how he was able to do it during COVID. I still never quite figured that out. But anyway, he would dial into meetings and he would, be available for all of his normal routine. But then in the morning and the evenings, he had, classes he was taking and walks and outdoor activities that they were doing at the retreat. And he said it was great because there were very few people there. So it was really like he had this great space pretty much to himself, but for maybe a handful of other people. So that was really cool. Also, we started actually even before COVID, admit this person, before COVID, we kind of had this policy. And as we've gone back into a few scenarios where we've had a few more in-person meetings starting to pop up in 2021, we have a rule that if it's a hybrid meeting, meaning some of the people on the call are remote and some are in person, you treat it like it's a remote meeting and everybody gets on video and everybody treats it as though you're engaging on the same communication plane. I think that's really important because it shows folks who may not live in your anchor city or your main company base that their participation is valued as equal to anyone else who was able to show up and be in the room at the same time. So those are some important things that we do with company culture. I see we've had a couple of questions come in. I'm open to taking those now if we want to, or I can wait until the end, either way. Did you ever get virtual tours from your employees? How do you mean about that when you say virtual tours?
With respect to when you initiated the work from anywhere policy, did they ever give you a little video tour of, hey, this is where I'm at?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that was part of the fun, right? It's like, where are you this week? And show me your place and what's going on. And, and then you get to meet their, family dog that they normally don't have, or you get to see a tour of the grounds. The guy who was in Costa Rica, every time he was on a video call, it looked like a poster or a postcard behind him because it was so beautiful and we just couldn't get over it. And he kept showing us, he'd take his computer and kind of show us around where he was and what he was up to. So absolutely. And again, I think that's something that allows you to really get to know your coworkers much better, even though you haven't seen them in person, you haven't had that lunch, you haven't gone out to dinner. You get to know more of their personality in a similar way and learn more about their interests and the things that that they want to be doing. So I really I recommend it if you
Fun way
have
to
some.
connect.
Yes, absolutely.
Nice. Thank you.
All right. So, and this is, I mean, the tough part with remote work, right, is a little bit about vulnerability and, you know, sort of putting yourself out there in ways that you may not have really been comfortable with in a job before. And these are some things now, having gone through it for over a year and a half, going on almost 2 years, I would highly recommend changing. And even if I went back into another organization that was a mix of in-person and remote, or was fully remote with, you know, a different culture, I would push for these things because I think that they really helped our company succeed. So one thing is, you know, if your company is still really leveraging tools like Microsoft Word or other things where it really encourages people to like do their work on their desktop, and then maybe they send it to someone and you have like track changes and all that kind of stuff, it's harder to collaborate, right? It's harder to get on the same page and share ideas and have your meaning interpreted by the other person the way you mean to. So lean into tools that may allow you to have more inline, you know, commenting and notation and collaboration. We happen to be a Google Docs organization, or Google Office tools organization. I know that that's not possible for everyone, but we also use Confluence, which is a tool by Atlassian. They also make Jira. There are a lot of them out there, though. You can do some research. I just put some examples here that I've used and that I use currently in my job now. And, you know, the nice thing about those is that not only can you comment someone, you can also kind of tag them or mention them. And then you can also easily like assign action items to people. Those types of things where it's really clear what you're communicating, who's responsible for what needs to happen next, who's waiting on who for a reply, who kind of has the ball, but that still has sort of that history tracking, so you can go back and see what prior versions were, that kind of thing. I think those are some of the key components you would want to look for in a documentation collaboration tool, but those are some that I've used or that I am using right now. Also, diagramming workflows of things. I can't tell you how many meetings could have been avoided that we like maybe thrashed a little bit, and people were each having like their own camp of an idea that we were really having a difficult time getting across what we were going to be accomplishing, that truly a picture would have been worth 1,000 words. And I can't overemphasize this enough. So going back to just diagramming even the most basic business processes or workflows as a communication tool to help convey to other people the meaning of what you're trying to explain to them, whether you're doing that in a slide or whether you're using a tool like Lucidchart, which we use at our company. Just know that there are a lot of great tools out there. Many of them are free, or at least for an individual, you know, maybe free for a trial anyway, that allow you to do really simple and straightforward workflow diagrams and be able to then put that up when you're having your remote meeting and walk everyone through it. And I promise you, it's going to help smooth out a lot of those bumps and realize that you're probably all saying about 90% of the same thing, but perhaps there was, you know, a nomenclature gap or something where one person was describing it another way and another person thought they heard them say something different. Especially if you're in a company where things are changing very rapidly and you're trying to get everybody on the same page with a new process or a new way things are going to work. Start with a diagram workflow and it's going to get everybody there a lot faster, and you're going to be able to get over those hurdles. Also, I love Lucidchart too, because it also has some of that in-app collaboration opportunity where you can notate and you can ask questions and get clarification pretty easily within the tool itself. And you can also share it pretty easily with folks giving certain people the ability to just view your workflow and other people the ability to actually co-edit it with you. If you're co-editing, it actually does work where you're literally seeing what someone else is doing at the time they're doing it. So it's like you can see them move things around in real time. They have a lot of great templates that they use as well. So that's something I would highly recommend. I actually have it open right now. I was just going to share with you guys. This is an example of one of the templates that they have, but you can see here where, I can sort of pick up and move something in this diagram. If I was doing this in collaboration with someone else, I'd be able to see them doing it at the same time. So if you haven't used it before, they also have really expanded. This is sort of their template section. All of the types of tools that they have, in addition to having them categorized around things like flowcharts and brainstorming ideas, they have a whole section now on working remotely. So whether you're looking for a new brainstorming board or some sort of meeting example that you used to do perhaps with a whiteboard, maybe some ideas here that you could look into for inspiring you. They even have like a work from home bingo. They have some fun things there that you could do with your team, scavenger hunts, that type of thing. So, look into tools like this because they can help you not only communicate key business ideas, they can also be ways to, get people collaborating with each other. So plan your project and get that information out in everyone's hands, create that transparency and accountability, and try to use it in a shared space that other people can contribute to. So I'm really a big fan of Asana. If you've never used it before, check it out. I think they do let you sign up for free and use it with like a basic free level for quite a while, even with a very small team. So I definitely recommend that highly. Also, Trello is one that's been around for a long time that you've probably heard of before, and Trello boards are another great way to do really basic and straightforward project management. And the reason why I suggest this is like, not everybody's going to have a subscription to Microsoft Project, and not everybody, maybe has access to think about things in terms of like Gantt charts and dependencies between tasks. But at the very least, you can start capturing the work that needs to be done and who's responsible for it and who has the action item, and using something like one of these tools to help with that as a communication tool. If you start thinking about what is a project plan at its core, it's a communication tool is all it is. It's not magical. It doesn't do the work for you. But if you've, sort of had those things very closely held in the past and only certain people got to own them and manage them and control them, it could feel like a barrier to, first of all, using that as a communication tool with other people, and or having it for other people to actually work with you on in a collaborative way. But I highly recommend letting that guard down and think about adopting one of these tools and having other people collaborate with you so that you can get their ideas on how they see a project going. And maybe you can close some communication gaps and actually improve your collaboration with people that are remote. Team drives. I strongly feel that your content at where you work, as much as possible, unless it's sensitive information about financials or what people are paid, that kind of thing, it should be open and it shouldn't be a secret. You should make it accessible, even if it's just read only. I can't tell you how much of a struggle it is when you're coming on board to a new company to try to find the information that can help you learn to do your job better and be more effective in communicating with others. So be a good team member. Think about your content when you're producing it. Don't leave it on your own personal drive, even if that's, backed up in the cloud on a LAN somewhere. Think about, like, do other people get to see this and can they benefit from it? And do as much as you can to try to unleash that information and put it in a place where people can find it, because I can promise you they're going to get insight from it. They're going to be able to do their job better. And you're going to be able to find people reaching out to you because they really found something that you put out to be useful. And they're going to want to know more. And you're going to be able to see some of that cross-team collaboration happening much more organically than if you kind of hoard or keep information secret. I've been at organizations before where information hoarding was a thing, not always awesome. Oftentimes you got around that by being able to make those in-person connections, meet people in the hallway, have a coffee, etc., all of a sudden information starts being made available to you. Well, if you're fully remote and you don't even know who to go to begin with to get certain bits of information, you just know you're lacking it, can really feel like a hill to climb. So starting to build a culture and make that just part of your default operating principle of all my stuff's going to be open. Again, being vulnerable and trusting and putting information out in a way that hopefully you can get the same in return is really useful. Having an open calendar. So I know this freaks some people out, but really I don't think it's a bad thing. I leave everything on my calendar that isn't just purely private to me open, or isn't sensitive because it may involve like an HR issue or something. Otherwise, I leave it open. I want people to know what I have going on so that they can see whether I'm really busy, and if they're trying to coordinate a calendar across multiple remote folks and figure out how to get a meeting planned when our whole days felt like they at times were being taken up with meetings, you can really help people get their job done faster if they can see what else you have on your calendar already and kind of make some assumptions from there. Like if it's a one-on-one, I might be able to move that. But if it's another meeting I have with 15 other people or with an external party, like a partner, they're going to look at that and go, oh, that's probably not going to work for her. I'm going to try to find another time. Right. So things like that, I know may be contrarian to how you've worked in the past, or they may not come naturally, or it may not even be something you've occurred or have occurred to you that you would do. These are some things I found that really helped me and helped other folks on my team be able to do their job. I was going to quickly did someone have a question?
I'm sorry, this is Kathy. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I have two questions about the previous slide. One of them is, I didn't see a Kanban there. Lucidchart seems to be similar to a Kanban board. Is Kanban old stuff? Is it considered obsolete and some of these newer applications superseded it?
No, Kanban to me is more of a agile process that can be actually surfaced through a number of different software tools, everything from Jira to, I think Lucidchart may even have a Kanban template example that you can use. To me, Lucidchart is more, again, it's like that sort of collaboration workflow. They even have a little bit of some lightweight wireframing tools. And I think the magic of it is with any of these document types you would choose to pull up, everyone who gets shared to it can all interact with it at the same time in real time. So it's just a way of, if you wanted to have a virtual stand-up board and have something that looked like sticky notes because maybe your team doesn't have Jira, you could use something like this. Or you're trying to get everyone to collaborate on a brainstorming project where normally you would all have sticky notes you put on the wall. You can do one of these brainwriting sticky note exercises instead. So it's really just like a document templating repository for everything from building out flowcharts to they even have some project templates in here if you really wanted to try to create something using Lucidchart for project planning. But I really, going back to Asana, I love Asana. I've used it for a long time. It's just super intuitive. It's very easy. Pro tip, you can actually copy and paste multiple rows of things at once from like a Google Sheet. If you have things in a Google Sheet, you can highlight your rows and paste them in here and it makes them into individual rows. There's also a lot of great integrations between Asana and Slack and Zapier, if you've ever used that as an integration sort of handler. It has a lot of integration stuff with that then it can plug Asana into and from other things. So check it out. So those are.
And then I have one more question, and and really this might just be personal, but when I worked at one of my jobs where we had Google Docs and a lot of open shared information, the organization of it was so individualized.
Yes.
That if I'm looking for something, I would look in every place I could think of. And then I ended up finally multiple times having to go to my supervisor and saying, where is this document file?
Yeah.
And so I understand Slack, has the channels that kind of do that, but are there any of these that make that confusion less mandatory?
So, Google search is your friend, but it's also a bit of a drag if you don't know what you're looking for, right? You have to know what keywords you're searching for, I guess is a better way to think of it. What I've done at other companies where all of our like user research and product documentation and release notes and everything were all in a Google Drive. We tried to do our best to sort of organize things in a way that we felt like people could logically navigate, but you're right, it can turn into a bit of a dumpster fire if you don't have someone who's tending the garden and making sure that everything is staying well managed. Google also has something called, and some of you probably know this, right? Google Sites, sites.google.com. And if you're on, or if you're at an organization that has, the Google Suite, usually they have Google Sites turned on. I started creating for our organization within the product a Google site that helped our consumers of product information coming in from external other parts of the org navigate our documents. So it was almost like I was creating like a browsable directory of information, or like an intranet for those of you who go back to the good old days of intranets. It's a way for you to stand something up and then link to all the Google documents and information that you're trying to really surface to folks and make it more discoverable, so they don't have to know your organizational structure and how your folders are organized to find it. So that's a pro tip for someone who's in a Google shop, if you will, is think about using that to help give people a way to discover and find what's really important and what would be useful for them to be able to get their hands on easily.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. So in terms of other collaboration tools and ideas, we've already heard Slack come up a couple of times, but Slack has a lot of great little integrations and plugins and fun things that you can do to help with collaboration and engagement for your team. One thing is, Slack polls. If you don't have this involved, we've got Simple Poll, and I think we also have Poly, and there's like 2 more we have integrated. And you can easily go in. There's free versions of these where if you just want to do a quick poll to a channel or to a group and get their feedback on something. In this one, it's a real life example, asking if we should have a meeting or not. There's ways that you can make it lightweight and fun and engaging. I highly recommend looking at that. Also, Google Forms. Again, if you're a Google shop, forms.google.com, you can go in and create your own forms to really do a quick survey and get feedback on certain things, whether it's the last meeting everyone attended or an upcoming session you're planning and you want to get input on. People will love the opportunity to give you that sort of lightweight feedback quickly, and you can structure it so that you're getting the answers that you need from everyone, right? Because a lot of times if you just open-ended, hey, I'd like to find out XYZ, you may not always get the information you need back. Forms are great because you can put in exactly the fields of information you're hoping to get from people, and they're like, oh, okay, this is what she needs. You can also ask scaled questions and multiple choice, all that good stuff. Typeform, if you're not a Google shop, is also great, and they have a free version, and it's really beautiful, and they have beautiful looking templates, and it's really gratifying to sort of interact with. So that's another one I recommend. And then I don't know who here has heard of Canva before, but man, I love how their stuff looks, and it's just so beautiful. So earlier when I was talking about using Lucidchart for a workflow, totally can do that. That's awesome. But let's say you have something that you really, now the process is maybe formalized, and now you need to communicate it with the rest of the organization. You could send an email, you could put something in Slack, or you could put it in a Google Doc. You could send out the workflow diagram that you made. But what if you turned it into this cute little graphic? I mean, how much fun would that be? And how much more would it resonate with people and be more likely to stick? So Canva has this infographics are just one example, but these are most of them are free. They're kind of set up in a way so it's really easy for you to think about, I could translate this business process or this thought that I have and turn it into this sort of asset very easily and then share it around the organization, whether it's timeline oriented or whether there's steps or do's and don'ts. They've got tons of examples here. And this is just the infographic category. They have all kinds of categories of templates that you can go and look through that can help you be more engaging in how you create certain content that exists accessible to everyone on your team and helps tell your story. So I highly recommend looking at their tools. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's easy to use, and free. What can be better? And then discover new ways to brainstorm. I kind of touched on this with Lucidchart a minute ago, but there are some other tools out there for you as well. If you work with a design org and they're using Figma, Figma has a new tool called FigJam that's in beta right now. Our team's trying it out right now for some of our meetings. You can feel free to check that out. Also, Miro has been around for a while. They also have templates and different tools for doing sort of like whiteboard and sticky exercises. So I kind of call it sticky on steroids. There's a lot of different options out there to really open up how you do brainstorming in a fully remote way and get that collaboration and get that input from your teams. So talking a little bit about the soft skills side of things before I sort of wrap up is think first and foremost, people are who you're engaging with. People first is one of our, one of our values at Spruce. We have our values on our website if you want to go check them out, but people first is the most important one. And if you really think at the end of the day, you're all remote, but really you're all people. And I know that sounds a little cheesy, but you have to sort of in the back of your brain, always remember that, because anything in the written word can be interpreted so many different ways. It can be interpreted that you're hearing someone's tone of voice or their intention. And so one of the rules I have for myself is assume positive intent with everything that I read. Assume that the person is coming from a good place. Read the message in my head in a happy tone. Think as positively as I can about what they're saying to me or what they're asking of me before I respond. That's something really important to try to adopt, I think, as a practice. Again, when to have a meeting and when not to. You saw my poll just a minute ago. People are getting fatigued. They're getting tired of being in Zoom meetings all day long. Zoom is great. We want to have those when it's a good moment to connect in the right way, but you also want to give people an opportunity to just not be behind a video camera all day long. And at our company, because we're a video on culture, I want to be sensitive to how many of those meetings I'm asking people to sit in a day. Find time to check in with your coworkers and chat with them in a way that is not agenda specific or meeting specific. You have to recreate your water cooler moments virtually. So put 15 or 30 minutes on someone's calendar in the morning to have a check-in and chat. There's no agenda. You're just there to get to know each other better and catch up. Have coffee meetings where you're literally sitting there having your virtual coffee. Make it a point to sit out on your back porch or somewhere else in your home other than your office when you have those meetings. So it'll relax you and let the other person see that this is not, a formal office meeting you're having, that this is more of a relaxed conversation, and allow them to let their guard down some too. Reach out to new people. New people joining a remote organization have it the hardest, and you need to just like almost bend over backwards to make it easy for them to get on board. Help them find things, even if it's something in HR, it's not your department. Like help them figure out where to find things and how to navigate your new organization and who they can go to get answers and information from. Ask for feedback. This is uncomfortable, especially in a remote work environment, but don't be afraid. Go into the conversation, letting someone know up front that you want to get their feedback, especially if you've had a particularly difficult conversation recently or maybe a contentious meeting. I try to immediately follow that up by reaching out one-on-one with that person and asking them for feedback and finding out how we can do better. Because sometimes it's just a miscommunication, and sometimes it's not even anything that everyone really fervently disagrees with. It could just be one small thing that could set it off. In a remote world, don't let that go. Make sure that you really heal that and use it as an opportunity to grow personally and ask for something from the other person that can make you improve, and let them know that you're going to consider that to be a safe thing that they can do, and they should feel welcome to give you feedback. Give thanks and appreciation and celebrate wins. Man, when you're fully remote, being on the treadmill every single day of getting on the next Zoom call and getting into the next Slack conversation, you can really start to lose sight of all you've accomplished. And at a company that's moving fast and you're doing a lot during the year, you can wake up and realize a year's gone by and you haven't taken the time out to even celebrate the milestones that you've accomplished along the way. Make that part of your week or part of your every other week, whatever your normal cadence and cycle is with your teams, and always look for something to celebrate in those moments and let them know how you appreciate them and what they've done recently. We also have a tool that we use to specifically prompt us weekly to just kind of capture our thoughts. We use something called 15-5. And within it, there's an area where you can, in your weekly recap and sort of catch your sentiment for how you're feeling for the week, you can give a high five to someone. It's like a virtual high five. And you can kind of shout people out for great things they've done within the week. And that gets posted on our end up in a Slack channel for the whole company to be able to see that. If you don't have something like that, but you are using something like Slack, I think has some other tools that let you sort of create that recognition component, and that can really help you create those connections with people and let them know how much you appreciate their work. Be patient with yourself and with others. People may be slow to respond on email. They may take a minute to get back to you on chat. It doesn't mean that they've blown you off. It means they might be in another meeting. They might be busy. It's easier to know that when you're in an office and you can see someone's not at their desk. It's harder when they're remote, and it's easy to start to feel like, why isn't this person getting back to me? Try to tamp that down and not let that get the better of you. Set up your workspace. Get a comfortable chair. Make sure that you have a comfortable desk to work at. It could be the height of your desk. It could be the height of your chair. It could be something as simple as a chair mat. IKEA has some inexpensive options, if you're looking for something on a budget. But don't skimp on how comfortable your working area is, because you're going to have to spend a lot of time there, and you don't want it to feel like something that you physically dread going into and sitting down at every day. That'll make your life miserable. Take frequent breaks, get up, take a walk, even if you need to just take a walk around your house, maybe. Don't put yourself in the position where you're literally on back-to-back calls all day long and never getting up to stretch your legs and walk around for a minute. Not only is it good and healthy for you, but also I think it helps to have that brain break and come into the next thing you're doing fresh instead of just rolling from one thing to the next. Stay hydrated. We're talking a lot, and that can dry you out, believe it or not, very easily and very quickly. Also, your eyes can get really dry. Look away from your screen occasionally. Try to put in about 5 or 10 minutes an hour that you're not looking at your screen. Look down, look at something else, not your phone, not another screen, but really try to kind of look outside or look in another direction and give yourself a minute to let your eyes rest. And you may even want to get some eye drops, because we're all staring at screens so much these days. And at home, then you're probably looking at your phone in the evening. Your eye health is really impacted by the amount of screen time they have. And then set a schedule and stick to it. Don't get in the habit of being on the 12-hour day, routine, because, hey, it's just down the hall from your bedroom and you're going to work, and then you're going to get up and just, go into the living room at the end of the day. Give yourself those breaks. When you're done at the end of the day, try not to get back on Slack. Try not to get back on email. I am my own worst offender in this category. So please give yourself the break you need when you're done for the day, and don't get back on your stuff when you're done. I know I went right up and a little bit past the time today. I hope that you guys found some good nuggets of information and resources and tools available in my presentation. I'm going to share out also the links to all the things that I kind of covered today with with Shannon and make sure that you guys have that available to your teams if you're interested in looking at any of them. And if you want to reach out to me, my LinkedIn is here, and also my email address. If you want to reach out and contact me, I'd be more than happy to connect with you from a networking perspective. It's been great getting to speak with you all today.